One of Milwaukee's oldest museums is getting a new home and a new name. The Nature and Culture Museum of Wisconsin will be the new name of the Milwaukee Public Museum when it moves to its new home in 2027. The new home is just a few blocks away from its current location. Joining us with an update on how the building of the new museum is going and what will be in it is Dr. Ellen Censky. Dr. Censky is president and CEO of the Milwaukee Public Museum. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Why is this the right time for the Milwaukee Public Museum to build a new home? And why decide now is it time to, in a way, chart a new course?
So the building that we're in, which is a county-owned building, has $100 million in deferred maintenance. And several years ago, almost 10 years ago, we actually looked into whether we should or could repair the building. And we also did a feasibility study with donors on what would they support. And it became very clear that the donors weren't interested in putting that kind of funding into a county-owned facility, and the county didn't have the funds to repair it, or they would have done that. So that's what set us off on this path towards a new museum. And we're really excited because it also allows us the opportunity to just reimagine those exhibits and refresh and really be even much more inclusive in what we're doing in the new museum.
Let's talk for a second about the name change.
Mm-hmm.
What does the new name, the Nature and Culture Museum of Wisconsin, what does it really reflect? And is it sign of a new direction for the Milwaukee Public Museum, or is it just really sharpening the focus with the name?
It really is that sharpening the focus. So we were established 143 years ago as a natural history museum, and our collections represent, there are 4 million objects in those collections. 3 million of them are natural history items, so birds and mammals and insects and fossils, and then another million are cultural items. And that is what we've been displaying and telling stories about from the very beginning. And so the reason for the name change is we know that if you ask 10 people on the street, what kind of museum are we? You'll get 10 different answers. And so because public doesn't tell you what kind of museum, public also implies that our funding comes mostly from the government. That is not the case in the future museum. 6% of our funding will come from the county. So it is a very small portion, and that 6% will be to care for those 4 million objects. But so we thought this is the best. We have an opportunity to really identify what kind of museum we are, a nature and culture museum, and that of Wisconsin is really because we have visitors that come from every single county in Wisconsin. In fact, 50% of our visitors come from outside Milwaukee County. We have collections that represent every single county in this state. So we wanted to really establish that we are, in fact, a state resource and a state institution. So that's why of Wisconsin. And frankly, it allows us to help to fundraise outside of this city too.
One of the things that is going to be so striking about this new building is the building itself, the architecture. What is the story behind the architecture, and how does it reflect what the new museum will be doing?
When we first brought our architects and our exhibit designers together, we did a 7-day, 28-stop tour of Wisconsin because a couple of those teams are from outside of Wisconsin. And we really learned about the natural history of Wisconsin and the cultures. And we said, like I said, 28 stops. One of those stops was Mill Bluff State Park, which it's one of those parks that's west of Madison in the Driftless area that has these beautiful bluffs. And those bluffs really intrigue the architects. And if you look at the at some of the sketches they made when we were on site, it one of them directly reflects this museum. So the museum was inspired by the geology of Wisconsin, and that geology is based on water. And the stories we heard throughout that trip were the importance of water to this state. So the museum itself, the building itself, reflects the geology and water in Wisconsin. And so again, this building is reflective not just of this community, which there are three entrances in. Those three entrances coalesce in the center. They represent the three rivers in Milwaukee coalescing, and we consider that central space a gathering place, which Milwaukee is a Potawatomi word that is gathering place by the water. So it's really incorporating Milwaukee and the state into the building design.
It's not just the building that is going to be striking. You have big plans for some of the new permanent museums that are exhibits that are going to be in the museum. Tell us a little bit about some of those exhibits and what we can expect to see.
So on the second floor, we will have and it's a 5-story building. And you'll be able to get to all 5 floors, which you can't get to all 5 floors in this museum. But the exhibits are the Milwaukee Revealed. We call it our spiritual successor to the Streets of Old Milwaukee, a beloved exhibit in this community. While the Streets shares a 7-year history in Milwaukee, this one will be similar. Walk through landscape set at dusk. But this one will be, I call it timeless, in that there will be old buildings and new buildings. We'll be able to share more of Milwaukee's history. And many of those buildings you'll be able to go into, which you can't do currently. And we are designing it in a way to also change out some of the collections. So for instance, there will be a Chapman's in this new museum in Milwaukee Revealed, and that Chapman's will be our showcase exhibit to swap out. We have this amazing textile collection that you don't ever get to see. So one time you come, we may have clothing from the Roaring 20s. Another time it could be traditional outfits from Northern European cultures. Another time it might be Guatemalan outfits. So we'll be able to rotate the collections through. So that's one of the exhibits where we're designing in more flexibility in changing out. Then there's an exhibit on called Time Travel, which takes you way back in time. And of course, the dinosaurs are one of those things that kids love. Well, this time we are going to our showcase exhibit, and that will be 2 dinosaurs battling each other. And one of them is the only dinosaur skeleton that we have, the real dinosaur, in a battle with a fleshed out one. And that is representing the research that we know from this, because we knew they battled because one of them has a puncture wound. So it'll be in a very dramatic with the sights and lighting and the sounds of this battle going on. Much, much more. Then there's an exhibit that will take you around Wisconsin, which is not something that we have in the museum today. So something new and fresh. And then another exhibit that will take you around the world to explore cultures and natural habitats from around the world. And then one of the really exciting things is, most people think that all our collections are on display. There are only 4% of them on display. The rest of them are in behind the scenes. Well, and you can't see them right now in this museum because they're on floors you can't get to. They will actually be on floors off of the exhibits, and there will be a 3-story window that will look into those collections. So you'll actually get to see the breadth of what we have on display in the museum.
It sounds like it's going to be an incredible experience for everyone, and we can't wait until 2027 when we all have the chance to visit. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Censky.
Well, thank you for having me.
For more information on the Nature and Culture Museum of Wisconsin and the current Milwaukee Public Museum, visit the website mpm.edu. We're right back.